Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Growth Focus podcast. I'm your host Gary Lafferty, and this is where we bring tech leaders to talk all things tech and share their expertise and their insights. This episode, I'm really pleased to have Zina Hassel, CEO and president of her own company, which we're going to get into a little bit later on, mentor and author of the book My Armadillo Skin. So that's something I'm really interested to talk about. So without further ado, Zina, welcome. Can I ask you to introduce yourself and just give us a little snippet of your story of where you started and how you got to today?
Well, thank you and hello. I am Zina Hassel. I started my career actually in healthcare administration, having been given what I was told was good advice, bad advice. Always wanted to be an attorney, never got there. So had to find the career, and I did healthcare administration. That is where I was introduced to technology, and that started back in, I'm going to give away my age, that was in the late 70s, and then I never looked back after that. And when it was time to get out of healthcare administration, because I didn't like the politics and the patients not coming first, is when I made the foray into technology. So I went from one male-dominated field into another male-dominated field. So somebody may say that I'm, just terribly masochistic. Technology, however, was much more brutal in many senses. And growing up in the tech world, I was introduced at first to my first job, and I was hired as the executive assistant to the president. I was the only postgraduate degree person, I think, in the company, and everybody thought that I was a secretary. So I had to, because why would they have hired me to be anything else? So I had to learn how to use that to my benefit, and I did that for decades, really. Fast forward, and there's a lot in between, is when I wrote the book during COVID, and I really wrote it for my two daughters so that they could perhaps take some advice and know how to be heard and not be stepped on, and how can you be assertive without being aggressive. And I also wrote it doesn't matter if you're male or female, how to move yourself up into the boardroom. And this is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it must have been, to be a woman in tech for such a long time now, you've got a very great career that you carved out for yourself. And as I know, tech is very much a male-dominated area, and for a woman to come and break through and get to the status the way you are is no mean achievement. So I'm curious, tell me, what was your inspiration apart from just moving from into, what was the inspiration to move into tech and then succeed at tech rather than just a stepping stone?
So when I was in healthcare, one of the things that I had done way back then, I was in healthcare administration. We had done a study. It was for New York State Office of Mental Health, and we saw the potential for about $1 million savings if we went private on our phone system. And that's when the deregulations had all started back in the 70s. And so that was my stepping stone into technology. I said if I was ever going to leave healthcare, I was going to try technology, and that's exactly what I did. And I always tell people, well, I had a career in the mental health field at a psychiatric hospital. It prepared me very well for the technology industry.
I bet it did. So let's take a little
sense of humor.
I know. Well, it always helps to have a great sense of humor as well. What would you? Let's move for segues. Let's talk about your book, My Armadillo Skin. I know you wrote it during the COVID period. You said you wrote it for your daughters. Tell us a little bit about that book for people who haven't heard about that book. What is the summary, and what is this book about?
So I basically go through the pitfalls that I fell into, every one of them, how you can avoid them, and if you don't avoid them, what you can be looking forward to. And it's sort of a guide that says, make yourself a chart. Where do you want to be? What do you need to do in order to get to where you want to be? And then who can you also help along the way? Because you should never burn a bridge. You never know what's coming back around. So we go through I'm an exceedingly stubborn person, so we go through the never say no. I mean, unless you have beaten everything to death, and there's no way to. The one thing that I get out of the industry and the career has always been Well, people have told me that that can't be done, but there's got to be a way for it to be done. So let's find a way to get it done. And that has been the mantra, my mantra. That's been the mantra of my company, and we're still standing.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that matter of there's got to be a way to get it done. There's
But
always a way. If you can't think of a way, there'll be other people in your network. There are other people there are other people you can call upon. And as I said, that one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is for tech leaders like yourself and others to share your expertise and insights with others within this field, so that they
right.
maybe feel alone, maybe they feel trapped, and they don't know what is the next step to make. And getting one little nugget out of each person might be that thing that helps them get through and smash through to where they want to get through. So I totally agree with with that particular mantra.
Well, and I should say also there are a couple of things. I don't lie. I tell it like it is. We're a highly ethical company, and we don't do anything immoral or illegal. So we could be a lot bigger if we did some of those things that we don't do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's a nice segue, a nice time to move on. So for those who aren't aware of ZLH Enterprises and who you serve, can you share with us what is it that you actually do, and the actual problem you solve for your clients?
Well, we work with, we're a B2B or business to business company. I'll give you an example. I had a phone call just this morning. There is a new company and we work with small all the way up to enterprise-sized companies. This was a small company. The gentleman is moving out of his house, making a foray into an office building. He was referred to us because we're the concierge for that particular 2 million square foot building. And I asked him a litany of questions. I don't know those answers. I said, well, okay. Tell me what your business is, tell me what you need, what do you do, and then I'll tell you what you need in terms of internet, telephone service, cabling, whether or not you need, I mentioned a PoE switch, it's called to him, and he just went silent, and I said, okay, don't worry about that, we'll take care of it. Let me know how many devices you need connected on a desk. We work with franchisees of large franchises, and we help to get them set up, because usually in their franchise agreement, it's sign the agreement, open your brick and mortar, and away you go. So we help them get set up. We work with small, medium, enterprise-sized clients. We'll take a look at their phone bills, for instance, either their phone bill, their internet bill. We'll make sure that what they're getting billed for is what they have, and what they have is what they need, and is the price competitive. And it started many years ago that you really needed like an engineering degree to read a telephone bill or an internet bill. And our best customer is the customer, once we get them on board, that knows how to read their bill. I'm working on a situation now where there's a carrier that owes a client. Well, there are two clients. One of them they owe $40,000. The other one they owe $60,000. And of course, they're trying to get out of it. And that's where the never say no comes in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that. So I'm curious. Entrepreneurship. You're moving from that. What is the draw for you when it comes to entrepreneurship? What is it that it's never easy? No entrepreneurship's easy. Running a business is not easy, right? It's full of ups and downs and zigzags, and when everyone's zigging, you've got to try and zag to make a difference. What is the draw for you being an entrepreneur?
Well, I like the ability to do what I do wherever. I mean, I was on a cruise and I was working, so it doesn't matter where I am. I can do my work. You get the freedom, you get the ability to take the clients that you want or not take the client. We have fired clients. Sometimes it hurts for a moment, and sometimes it is such a sigh of relief, it's amazing. But the entrepreneurship it's the challenge, it's that never say no. It's very scary. I don't go, I go to casinos to see what the restaurants are. I don't go to casinos to gamble, because I figure I'm gambling every day, and I work very hard for the money. I ultimately win, so I don't need to do anything at the tables. It's also being an entrepreneur if you have the ability to choose who is working with you. And I have my daughter working with me for more than 10 years now. She hated it when she first came. We mutually parted ways once. I'll tell you that I fired her. She'll say that she voluntarily left. In any event, it was something that didn't work. But then she came back and, something clicked, and she's really good at what she does. And there's the dream team, and then there's, oh my God, the Tigers, put them back in the cage.
Yeah, that's it. This is always a challenge when you're working with family. Working with team members is hard enough, but when you're working with your family as well, it can make things rather fraught and rather tense at times. But hey,
Right.
when it goes well, it goes really well, doesn't it? And it's it's a beautiful place to be. So that being said, what kind of trends are you seeing out there in the marketplace at the moment with regards to tech, with regards to tech companies? We'll talk about AI a little bit later on down the line, just very, very briefly, because we can't do an interview without talking about AI. But what kind of trends are you seeing out there at the moment that's affecting businesses from your side of the fence?
Well, I can tell you that in my particular industry, so I'm as a consultant. Are you there, Gary? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
See that? I'm in technology and I can't even keep the screen up. So what my part of the industry is maturing, but it hasn't reached its total maturation point. And what's happening is you've got people getting gobbled up all the time. You've got people competing with you that, in my opinion, shouldn't be competing with you. You shouldn't be in competition with your supplier. That's my opinion. And so it becomes a challenge sometimes also with what we do. And we work with CIOs, we work with IT directors, and you have to be able to explain to them, we're not there to take their jobs. God knows I don't want those jobs. We are there to augment their staffing and to help them, because we are able to sometimes gather a lot more information in the industry than they are, because we know who the suppliers are. We have a secondary avenue to reach out for assistance when a circuit may be down. This morning, for instance, we had one enterprise client reached out and said, oh my God, I'm on hold with such and such a company. I've been transferred 4 times. Can you help me open up this trouble ticket? And I just emailed back, I said, why would you even try? Because we say to we never stop the customers from making their own trouble calls, but then they usually come back and, could you do it, please?
Yeah.
So one of my staff did it, and we had the technician out, and the circuit is working now. We have other avenues, that we can escalate things. But so the industry it's a little bit in flux, because a couple of our suppliers they've decided that they can do it better. They don't need people like my company. Some of them have walked that back now, and now they're rehiring their staff that they let go, because the consulting industry, in my particular industry, represents a high percentage of sales. There are some companies that are just not what we call agent friendly. They'll learn.
Yeah, I mean that is something which I'm hearing across the board in tech as well, where we work with a lot of VARs, value-added resellers and MSPs, and they're finding more and more now over the course of the last sort of 2 years, their partner has begun to, how can we best put it, put a bit of more of a stranglehold on their ability to do their work, on their ability to go out there and create a good business.
Not only that, but so for the VARs and the MSPs, the managed service providers, they're sometimes finding that their suppliers are their biggest competitors. They're also finding that their suppliers, where the VAR or the MSP has a fixed rate contract with their client, their supplier may come up and say, oh, wait a minute, no, we don't like this price anymore. We're going to raise the price on you. Then what are you going to do? So it's always a juggling act, and you have to be able to budget. There are companies out there that they don't budget. They don't forecast. I mean, we don't really forecast sales per se, because we're at the point where I know what's coming in, And we're not a sales organization. We're a consultancy. We're there to help our customers. And the more we help the customers, the more the sales are going to come in. We don't advertise.
No,
And we have,
exactly.
and we have no salespeople.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of partners, a lot of agents, and a lot of resellers out there who very much are for the service of their clients. The sales come naturally. There's almost like founder-led sales, because when there's a sales conversation to be had, rather than going to a sales person, it's going to the founder. The founder knows the client, knows the product, knows the service, knows the partner, and it's a much easier transaction, much more easier conversation to have, and in almost like in the trusted advisor position.
Well, you've done your reading.
Yeah.
and that's what we're known as in the industry now, trusted advisors. We were always trusted advisors, but the nomenclature seems to change every so often.
Yes, absolutely.
And the interesting thing about knowing your clients, because I do know the clients, but my daughter, because she's in the business now, has taken a lot of the pricing and she has a lot of the client relations that she works with. So now she knows the clients,
Yes.
and I have to go to her and say, "Hey, what's going on with so and so?" Because so it's an interesting pass the torch.
Absolutely. So, talking about clients, what do you think is the main misconceptions small businesses have out there with regard to telecommunications, with regard to consulting, with regards to agents? What are their misconceptions about taking on new software or new hardware?
Probably the biggest negative is they don't see the necessity. How many clients have I spoken with that don't have a firewall?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to protect your data. And if you're not worried about you, then worry about your clients whose data you're managing. In terms of security breaches, oftentimes I'll hear them say, "I'm too small, nobody's going to bother with me." They upgrade their computers. They're going to upgrade their Windows environment when Windows stops supporting it, so they should be upgrading, that which is running as the engine to the business. They should also take a look in this day and age, and I'm sitting down here in Florida, so here's a perfect example. They should have their primary, and it used to be known as a backup internet circuit, but it really should be running simultaneously or aggregating with an SD-WAN device. So that way you're not paying like an insurance payment on a secondary circuit, but you're using them all.
Yeah, that's great advice.
They don't see the benefit necessarily in that. And quite frankly, the technology is not the client's mainstay. That is not their core competency. So what we're there to do is lift that burden off their shoulders so that they can spend their time, which is a very valuable resource, in their business at their core competency. And some people don't get that.
No, I can see why they don't do that. And as you said, sometimes they think they can just do a little bit of research and tick the box and it'd be done. And
Right.
in reality, that's why there's experts out there, because we have far more time, and people like you have far more time. You've got your finger on the pulse all the time of the industry, and can save them so much time. People don't value their time enough. Entrepreneurs are always saying how busy they are, but if they just took stock and realized that they could utilize their time so much better, especially in tech. Tech has grown so fast, so quickly, and there's so many other things out there that, combined with experts and combined with people who've been in the business, who've got their boots in the trenches, as you were, they can really, really, really help them. So that being said, I'm curious about entrepreneurs out there, the market outside. You've been in business for a while, you've run a very successful company, you've got your daughter on board now. What are the challenges businesses are having today? And what challenges do you think businesses are, especially the small to medium-sized business, are going to be having in the next couple of years?
Well, the business is going to go with the economy. The economy is not a growing economy right now. However, thank goodness we've been able to taxes on businesses, payroll taxes on businesses are skyrocketing. The cost of healthcare is skyrocketing. In order to get help, you've got to overpay sometimes for it. So all of the costs are rising, and they're rising not only for us as a service provider, but they're rising for the clients that we work with. So if we can show them how to optimize the costs of what they're paying for and have a valued solution, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, it's keeping an eye on costs. Costs are spiraling, in all aspects, in all departments of a business, and it's just we need to keep a stronger eye on that. And once we have an eye on it, it goes back to that old adage of what can't be measured can't be managed. They've got to measure where and see where those costs are, what's increasing, and then look for alternatives as to what can we do to shave that off. And unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of business who think the first thing to do is to shave staff, is to shave the team. And that's not necessarily where they have to go.
Right, because they don't see necessarily that some of the things that they think are fixed costs, they may be fixed costs, but not at the level that they currently are. So you may have a business that has, let's say they've got 300 mobile devices, and they pay, I don't know, $10,000-$15,000 a month. They may just, that's it, that's what I have to pay. Well, I don't know when it's the last time that you look to see if you could optimize the plans. There are wireless expense management plans that can be put on. And did you look at that? The average person in business doesn't know that that's available.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not going to be told that either, because we see that some suppliers, that they're almost incentivized to push people onto different plans that sound better than the previous one you had, but actually it could be 10 times better if you actually knew someone who could point you in the right direction.
Or how to manage or how to put the devices in the plan in the right way.
Yes.
So that you get the optimal benefit out of it.
Absolutely. And I think this is where entrepreneurs do tend to stick their head in the sand a lot and don't worry about it till a renewal comes up or the big bill hits them. They suddenly think, oh, and then it's a knee-jerk reaction. And from the knee-jerk reaction, and we all know that knee-jerk reactions aren't necessarily the best decisions going to come out of that. So if they could pre-plan it in some way and say, look, what can we actually do here? That's got to pay some dividends, surely.
Right. Or they say, oh my God, what do you mean it automatically renewed?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So as a business owner and an entrepreneur, what advice, I'm curious, what advice would you be giving to people? What's the one big advice you'd give to anybody who's probably just starting in their entrepreneur career right now? Maybe they've been 2 or 3 years into it and they're just feeling a little bit stuck. They're thinking, oh, this was a lot better 2-3 years ago than it is now. It's getting a little bit tougher now. What would be your advice as a seasoned entrepreneur?
Well, sometimes you have to take a step back. How are you doing things? Is there another way of doing it? Does it make sense to take the plunge and bring somebody else on, even though that's a higher expense for you? But can that outside perspective help you, free you up, so that you, as the business owner, can go off and do some other things which can drive the revenue? So that's a big step for somebody to say I have to hire more people, or how am I going to do this now? You can't always work 18 hours a day.
No, I think, do you know what? I am absolutely going to bow down to that advice, because that was something when I had my very first company. I got to the point where it was just me and the co-founder, and I knew I needed to take on staff. I just knew I did. But I couldn't let go. And if I knew what I knew now...
You didn't want to share.
No, exactly. I was like a spoiled child. I just didn't want to share. But I just thought this big expense of I've taken a new staff, I've taken new staff, then I've got to get new premises, and this whole fear thing took over, and it took me months to make that decision. But once I made that decision, it was so soul freeing. Right, I to put a new member of staff in, to put them in place, show them what to do, which allowed me to then focus on more needle-moving factors for the business and to grow into that business, where I couldn't have done that if I was holding on too tight. So I absolutely adore that piece of advice you just said, because I've done it. I have done it, and I've done it more than one occasions where I hold on a little bit too tight, I hold on a little bit too long before I let go of those reins. And I wish I knew what I know now back then about building and trusting a team.
And that's it. You have to trust your team. I must say, probably the best team in the industry. I trust every one of my team members implicitly.
Well, that being said, I suppose that leads to a nice question there. What is attracting a team is hard enough. Retaining a team gets even harder.
Yeah.
What would you suggest? What are your suggestions or your advice or your insights into retaining the team that you have?
Well, I try to always be fair. And although I am known to yell at my suppliers and I can talk like a sailor, I don't do that to my staff, other than to my daughter. But you have to treat them like human beings, and you have to value the contribution that they make to your company.
Absolutely, because they are the blood of it.
Paying a decent wage also doesn't hurt, and we have some profit sharing and other plans. I share the wealth.
Yeah.
Without them, I wouldn't be necessarily as successful.
No, that's absolutely true. As I said, they are the lifeblood. When you have a good team, they really do help you move the business, especially if they're bought into the vision as well that you have, that then literally companies can absolutely soar. Well, thank you very much, Zina. Thank you for your time. It's been absolutely great having you here. But before I let you go, I've got one more question for you, and that is, I kind of alluded to it already, but the question is this. It's a bit of a loaded question. Knowing what you know now, if you had to give your younger self one piece of advice, the one that would make the difference, what would that piece of advice be?
I probably would have done it sooner, because having been trampled on and kicked around in the industry and reorganized out or terminated on maternity leave really didn't sit well with me. So I probably should have done it a lot sooner.
Right, yeah.
I value all of the life lessons that I had, though. But it's great. The sense of independence is just extraordinary.
Yes, it absolutely is. When you got it dialed in, it does seem like hard work, but it was hard work the other way. You're not even enjoying it, right? But now you get to do the hard work, and you do get to enjoy it if you can get to the stage where you live by your own terms. So, Zina, if someone's curious about what you do or wants a little bit more help with what you're able to do, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Well, they can send an email to info at zlhent.com. They can look at our website, www.zlhent.com, or they can call the office at 72-845-5288. And let me leave you with one last thought, because you said something just now. You have to like what you do. And if you like what you do, the odds are that you're going to be really good at what you do. If you don't like what you do, that's going to come through. So get your ass out of there and find something else that you like what you do.
Absolutely. Well, what a brilliant note to end on. Thank you very much, Zina, for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Well, I enjoyed it, Gary. And see, I really wasn't. I kept it clean except for that one last comment.
Yeah, I know. When we talked off air a lot, when we talked off air before this, we do tend to go down some little rabbit holes, and we have to dial it back in again. So
I'm okay if you leave it in, because anybody that knows me knows, she would say something like that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Zina, and thank you guys for joining us on this fabulous episode. So if you've taken anything from Zina, if you've got a little nugget or a little bit of insight that you could use in your business that you found helpful, please make sure, do one of four or all four as usual. Please make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, but more importantly, make sure you share. Make sure you share this episode with someone who you really think some of the words of wisdom that Zina has shared with us that they could use as well in building their career or their business. So once again, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the Growth Focus Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.